This is the 2019 YT Capra 29 CF Pro Race Build. It's an incredible deal considering you get a carbon frame with very high-end components. But as great a deal as $54.99 is, it's still a pretty hefty investment for most people. And so, I'm gonna do my best to provide you with the most honest and useful information. But before giving you that information, I am first going to briefly tell you about me, my skill level and experience, and show you the trails I ride. I'm 5'9", coming in at around 175 pounds. I've been riding consistently for the last 4 years, and within that time frame, I've owned a handful of bikes. I primarily ride enduro, some experience riding bike parks. And when it comes to jumps, I do okay on small to medium-sized jumps. I've also raced locally a few times.
All right.
Woohoo! With that, let's jump into my experience with the YT Capra.
This bike, it's an enduro race bike. It's intended to be raced and be taking down some gnarly stuff. I'm gonna take it down one of my favorite short tracks here. It runs about 1 minute 55 seconds if I can beat my PR. And it's not what this bike is intended for. This is a 29er 170 mil travel enduro race bike. So this track that I'm about to do, it's definitely below its capabilities, but it should still be fun. And after all, right, we buy these bikes so we can ride our local trails as well as bike parks and so on. So let's drop in. Woo! It's a fun bike, that's no doubt. It's loose, but my buddy's got the Onzas on here, which in my opinion are the grippiest tires out there. That was my very first ride on this bike, and it felt playful, poppy. And one thing that really stood out for me, at least in that short track, was the weight. I think it comes in as is, probably at 29, maybe 29 and a half. So compare that to my transition alloy, my Sentinel, that's about 34 pounds. So that's about a 5-pound difference, and I could definitely feel it in the handling. A lot easier to maneuver and toss around. Now, where that's going to either be a positive or a negative, it's going to be on the long, straight, gnarly descents, where, at least in my opinion, you want to have a little bit more weight to keep you planted. All right, let's drop into this next trail. And this one's got a little bit more chunk. It's still pretty flowy, but it's got some chunk, and it also has a couple of jumps. Should be a fun one to take the Capra on. So let's go. It's a long track. So I'm gonna be gassed. Oh shoot. Well, so much for that. Let me get off the side of the trail here. Well, that sucks. I got a flat dropping in, and it went completely flat. And my buddy Joe, hey man, if you're watching, I'm sorry, dude. Look at, I broke a spoke. I don't think I did any damage to your carbon hoops. I don't see any. It's 2 days later. I've got that wheel fixed, put in a new spoke, replaced the rim tape, and got some fresh sealant in there. So it should be good. And I think that's where I got the flat this last time. Oh shoot. The shifting is off. You can hear it. Yep, there it is. Let me see if I can correct it. So we got a few jumps coming up, nothing big.
Noticeable differences here. Down this longer, faster, and straighter descent, I didn't feel as confident or as fast as on my Sentinel. And I think that's because this medium-sized Capra isn't as stretched and as slack as my Sentinel.
It is loose.
And where the lightweight was a plus before, that wasn't the case here. I felt squirrely and not planted.
This thing is super light.
But that could also be the fact that I didn't adjust the suspension to my preference.
One of the reasons why I've stayed away from YT is the fact that the frame does not allow for a water bottle, or at least a full-size water bottle. The Jeffsy, you can put a small one in there. But, I have my transition and I don't have a water bottle cage on that bike. And that's because most of my rides are local. They're about, 2 hours of riding, and I can get by with just one water bottle tucked in my shorts. And in longer rides, obviously, I'll throw a Camelback on. Let's talk about some of the differences between this bike and my bike. Again, I own a 2019 Transition Sentinel, and it's a medium. This Capra is also a medium. But in today's world, it's not so much about the size of the frame that you ride as much as the geometry of that frame. And here's what I mean by that. Both the Capra and my Sentinel are mediums. The Capra, it's about 10 millimeters short or shorter on the reach, 18 I think, shorter on the wheelbase. In the head tube angle, I think it's a 65.5 on here on the Capra, whereas my Transition is a 64. C-tube angle, they're about the same, about 77, 76 point something. So yeah, so they're both medium, but they both feel different. And again, that's because of the geometry. So
let's get to the million-dollar question. Would I consider buying the Capra as my next bike? Honestly, I can't say. In fairness to YT, and for the benefit of those watching and relying on my opinion, I would first have to demo the large. So I guess the moral of the story is this.
If there's one thing that I would recommend you walk away from watching this video today, is that when picking a bike or a frame, to be more specific, don't go off of the size as much as the geometry of that frame.
And definitely demo before you buy.
Lastly, I just want to say thanks to my buddy Joe for letting me ride his bike. And everybody watching, I hope you found this video useful. And until next time, ride fast, don't die, God bless.